Got it. Thank you. And we are back with another episode of 90s Noise. And today we are joined by Jamie and Milo from the 80s and 90s Uncensored. Thank you both for joining us today. Go ahead,
Thanks for
introduce and tell us a little bit about how you guys got started.
Yeah, I guess I could do it real quick. So Jamie had this idea. He wanted to do a website about 80s and 90s stuff, because we both unfortunately can remember the 80s or 90s and 90s slightly, and so he wanted to do like write content and stuff. And then he contacted me and he's like, hey man, you want to write for my site? And I'm like, not really, but if you want to do a podcast, that I'd be down for.
I didn't know what a podcast was, though. I really did. I thought it was like a net used to catch whales or something. I'm like, what is a podcast?
Yep. And that's pretty much it. Like we've been doing it ever since, a couple of years now, almost, I think, right?
Yeah, 2.5 years on Monday.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Ooh,
and he's pretty surprised because I'm a flaky dude. And every time we've ever kind of maybe done stuff, or we worked together too back in the day. So I'm a flaky dude, but if I like something, I'll stick with it. So he's like, wow, you must like this because you stuck with it for 2.5 years. I'm like, yeah, dude. That's why I'm still like raising my son too. You know, I kind of like him, so I'm totally down for that. Like stuff I like, I'll stick with. But
he's working his way into teenagehood, so Jamie's liking him less than he used to.
That's true. Yeah.
Oh man. And so real quickly, what years were you guys each born?
Well, disco was still around. We'll tell you disco was a thing. Then we'll leave it at that. How about that?
There you go.
More than a woman. More than a woman to me.
I try to occasionally do a little acting and stuff. So, I got to pretend I'm different ages depending on whatever they want. So
we're sensitive, okay? We're sensitive about our age.
I say old enough to start lying about my age. I'm 27.
There you go. Well, part of the reason we always just double check is to know, because for us, some of the stuff, because I'm the baby in this group right now. I know that because I'm younger than Ashley. So a lot of the stuff I go off of also what my brothers who were born in the mid to late 80s, and because I'm a early 90s, I was born 91. And so just kind of having an idea that of living through, as opposed to getting like a secondhand version of it in a sense. And so today,
so we'll put it this way: the 80s and 90s, we observed every day of the 80s and 90s. So there you go. Each and every day we were there in some form or another.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. And today we are taking a little back to the 80s with some 80s cartoons. And it's interesting enough for me because, like I said, I wasn't even a thought in the 80s, but a lot of these cartoons I did grow up with, both with my brothers and just the Saturday mornings or reruns. So it's definitely fun to go back on this. So
you said you were born in 91?
Yes.
So you might have still been a thought, just saying. You might have been someone's thought. Your parents might have been thinking about you.
I think I was in the 80s and late 80s, but I wasn't even a speck of dust yet. So all right, so we'll go ahead and start with we're gonna go ahead and let's do top 3, and then we can do some honorable mentions of the different 80s cartoons that enjoyed. So I'll start off, no specific order for me personally, and I'll go with what I've got behind me, and happen to also be rocking on my shirt here. I came all out for this one. Care Bears. And so that was definitely a big one for me. One of my brothers absolutely loved Care Bears, like had room done up in Care Bears and everything, had all those stuffed animals. And I kind of got that passed down to me and just absolutely always loved watching it, and I'm a huge animal person, so that helped too with all the different animals that they would put into it. But yeah, that was always a good one for me. Always something that I could just watch and enjoy myself. And yeah, so I don't know if anybody else really watched Care Bears.
So you think Care Bears were like, for like looking back, like my son, yeah, that was for girls, but totally was for boys too. I
Mhm.
remember that because I like Care Bears, and it wasn't like Rainbow Bright or something where if you like Rainbow Bright, people would be like, oh, I don't know, dude, that's kind of funny. But if you like Care Bears and you're a boy, people don't mess with you because boys like Care Bears too. So
Oh yeah.
that's the interesting thing about Care Bears. It's kind of cuddly and stuff, and you think it's just for girls. It's totally not, because there's just as many boys back in the 80s who like Care Bears.
Yeah, that works. I didn't really like the Care Bears because I was totally one of those boys. My sister watched it, and I would occasionally have to watch it because of that. But I was totally one of those boys. Like, Care Bears, whatever. You get a Care Bear, I'm gonna paint it some color and chop its head off and shave it or something.
So mean, dude.
Oh my god.
But you know what? They were kind of badass though, because they had the Care Bear stare and they had all that cool powers coming out of their
Yes.
bellies, dude. That was pretty powerful stuff, man. So like evil would come and they'd be like, come on, everybody, we just need to care together. And then all the power come out of their cool bellies and be like, I'm the bad guys, be like, ah, crap, dude.
Exactly.
So they were kind of
Thank
hardcore, dude.
you.
They were kind of hardcore.
Exactly. Agree. Ashley, did you
Yeah.
ever watch Care Bears?
No, and that's what's funny is that like I know of Care Bears. Like I know we had Care Bear stuff, and I think my sister probably watched them, but I personally don't remember watching them. But that sounds so cool, like that they have those powers.
It was.
Why did I
Yeah,
not watch this?
and each of them, it's kind of like it's kind of like they have their own, like a shield, or what do they call those? Like those ancient shield things. And they each have their own power with their own kind of belly symbol, right?
Yeah.
And their own power comes out of the belly. They're like Care Bear stare, and like one of the Care Bears, like Kate, could come out of his belly like, ha!
Oh my god.
It's
It's
was
cool. You should watch
definitely-
it. Ashley,
Oh,
you should totally watch
I
it.
do
At least
wanna
a
watch
few.
it.
And they
Yeah.
watch the Care Bears movie, and then you can just say
Ooh,
you watch.
Yes.
Totally do
Yes,
it. Then you don't have to
absolutely.
watch the whole thing. You just watch the Care Bear movie
Yes,
and
there
say
you
that you
go.
watched Care Bears. And they do a lot of
Fuck
Care
yeah.
Bear stare in action. It's rad.
Oh yeah.
And this is my co-host on the podcast, everybody. He actually knows the Care Bears movie.
That is hilarious. That is so funny.
Love it. All right. Who's up next?
You got
I'll
to
go.
dictate. Oh, Milo's gonna go.
I'll go. Or yeah, you can dictate, whatever. I don't care. I just
We like
noticed a pause.
dictatorships.
I don't like pauses. Gotta
No
Yeah,
worries.
no.
Well, I'm gonna start with a high one, or an awesome one, and go Voltron. So Voltron ran from 84 to 85, and it was actually a take on a Japanese animated series called
Okay.
something else. And they turned it into Voltron when they brought it over to the US. They dubbed it into English and stuff like that. And of course, it was like most toys back in the 80s. It was most cartoons back in the 80s, it was imported basically for the purpose of selling toys. That's what I was
Mhm.
trying to say there. And
Okay.
and so of course all the kids wanted the little Voltron toy and that kind of stuff. I never had one because we were poor, but I saw other kids with them and was jealous and said, "Mom, can I have one of those?" And my mom would say, "Well, you can want in one hand or shit in the other and see which one gets full first." And
Here's
my
some
one
GoBots,
hand-
Milo.
Exactly. Yeah. Instead, she got me a GoBot. Yeah.
Okay.
Aw.
They just redid it actually as a Netflix series, and the Netflix
Mm.
series is actually pretty good. Usually when they redo stuff, I think it kind of sucks. Jamie
Uh-huh.
definitely does, but I really enjoyed it. So if you didn't watch the original Voltron, because each episode is very routine, like they
Uh-huh.
form
Mhm.
the bad guy sends the monster, they form Voltron, they fight him, they beat him, they win. But they did a new series which actually had a nice storyline throughout the series and was pretty good.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch Voltron?
And no, definitely
Nope.
not.
I think my brothers did. So it's just to refresh everything, I just pulled it up a little bit on IMDb, and it looks like a mix of like Transformers and the Power
Mm.
Rangers.
That's a good description.
I would say the
It-
Power Rangers copied Voltron.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Because
pretty
of course,
much.
like for me, 90s to me is first, even though it's not.
Yeah.
The thing about each episode too, it's funny. It's like they're in their individual tiger robots, but the monster's kicking their ass, right? And then they're like, "Oh man, we're losing this battle, so let's form Voltron." So then they form Voltron and the big thing, and then they win. And it's now I'm an adult, and I'm thinking, well, you probably could just like form Voltron first, or you could even just stay Voltron, and then you won't even have to go through the losing phase. You could just win. But that's my adult self. That's my lame adult self talking.
Yeah.
All right.
Beast
all right.
King Go Lion. That was the original Japanese name.
No, yeah.
Okay.
Beast King, go lion.
Beast King Go
Oh.
Lion.
I think I remember seeing where I was watching one of, I think the Netflix or Hulu of like games that or toys that shaped us or something like
Mhm.
that. And
Oh yeah.
they
it's
were
on
talk-
there.
talking about Voltron and everything because that sounds very familiar to me. So, all right, Ashley, what you got?
Well, if you couldn't guess, Winnie the Pooh. I was like obsessed with Winnie the Pooh when I was a kid, actually like Pooh Bear. But for some reason, as I got older, this guy is who I became obsessed with. I love Eeyore, still love him to this day. I don't know. And I also know that me and April, we talk about this a lot, but Jem Cummings being Pooh Bear, who is like one of the greatest voice actors, I feel like, that
Yeah, totally.
came out of the 90s, just makes the show even more iconic. And I don't know, anything with Pooh, that was one of the shows on my list that I could go back and actually like rewatch a whole episode and not get to the point where it's like, okay, I can't sit through this, it's too childish or it's just not funny or whatever it is. But I really love watching Pooh still. I don't know, that's just me.
You know what I like about Eeyore? He's a unique character for a cartoon, right? Because there's almost no cartoons like with major depression. You know what I mean? And but really, like they're all happy all the time, and it's not realistic because like there's a lot of people with like there's a lot of depressed people. So he's kind of like just this depressed guy, and he's relatable
Mhm.
more so than a lot of other cartoon characters because he's like, I'm kind of depressed, and I'm like, yeah, dude, I totally understand you. You're like, I get you, bro.
That's a good point. That's
Yeah.
probably why I enjoy watching it still as an adult, is that they actually are pretty relatable in the way that their mannerisms are and just how they think and do things. Like it's very relatable in that adult way, not just as a kid.
Yeah, totally.
It's one of those things where watching as a kid, you really don't grasp the undertones of the cartoon, but as an adult, it's something that adults could watch with their kids because they are able to relate to Rabbit or Pooh or Piglet or Eeyore or Owl, just because of or Tigger, because of everything that they are going through, the different mental health issues. And as a kid, you don't understand that.
Because they definitely all
And-
have mental health issues. I mean, Tigger is like off the wall, like
Yeah, he's
some
manic,
stuff.
right?
So
Yeah. Well,
He's
isn't
totally
it-
manic.
Aren't
80
they-
like attention deficit disorder.
Yeah.
And
and then like Rabbit's what, OCD, I think.
Mhm.
is
yeah,
what it
totally
is.
OCD.
Piglet's
like a
got
worry wart.
anxiety.
Mhm.
Pooh is, I think,
Pooh- Who's an
more-
addict? Come on.
yeah.
He's
Yeah.
an
He's a honey addict.
Give me some of that honey, man.
Mhm.
Look, man,
Oh,
I-
God.
Come
just
on,
give it-
right
just-
in the
just-
vein.
I'll pay you tomorrow. I swear to God, give me some of that honey.
And so that's one thing I did like about Pooh. Like you said, Ashley, like it is one that you can go back as an adult, if whether you're watching it by yourself as an adult or if you have kids to watch it and grasp some things that you didn't catch as a child.
Mhm.
And that's always nice to see that in shows to where they're trying to relate to everybody and not just purely very kid, very childish type of thing.
Yeah, they're a family of flawed individuals, which is like most families, right?
Exactly.
They really feel like closer to you. I totally dig that.
Yeah. If you don't like Winnie the Pooh, you have no soul, is really
Exactly.
what it comes down to.
Yep.
There's something
Agreed.
wrong with you.
Yeah, so if you don't like it, their listeners are like, I don't like Winnie the Pooh. Yeah, you need to change your ways.
Get out of here. Not allowed.
Mhm.
All right.
All right, so my cartoon is Heathcliff.
Okay.
Heathcliff is the other orange cat, right?
Yes.
So in the 80s, Garfield was like dominant. He was huge. But there was another cartoon strip in the papers called Heathcliff, and they did make a cartoon. They had a cartoon from like 81 to 83, which is not the one I remember. I remember the one that started in 84. So it's Heathcliff, and he's different from Garfield. I like Heathcliff better because Garfield, he's just kind of sitting his lazy ass around, just like, I want lasagna. I don't want to move. And he's funny and stuff, but Heathcliff's out in town, right? He's moving and shaking. The dogs respect him. The rats respect him. He's got a girlfriend. He's out in town, like making things happen. So I really like this show, and it came on at kind of weird times. And not a lot of people know about it. But the other half of the show was the Cadillac Cats. So it's this gang of cats that live in a junkyard, and they drive a cool car. And the gang leader, he's got a girlfriend too, and she's kind of a hottie for a cartoon cat. She's got like leg warmers and stuff, and you're like, that's pretty hot for a cartoon cat. But they got their own adventures with his gang and stuff. It's just a fun cartoon. I don't think a lot of people know about it, and I don't think a lot of people give Heathcliff the due credit for being like the OG orange cat, and for being, I think, in my opinion, a better orange cat, because he goes out and he tears up the town. So that's what's up, Heathcliff. Anybody know about Heathcliff?
I do not, but
Really?
it's funny because I know of it, but it's funny because I was going to talk about Garfield, because I feel like that is the show that a lot of the 90s kids grew up on. But if it would have been cool to have grown up on Heathcliff. Like, I'm very intrigued by that storyline, but I was obsessed with reading the Garfield cartoon strip. So that show is familiar to me. Like, that is just the show I remember, but
I totally bashed your show. You were going to talk
No,
about it. I'm
you're
like,
good.
"Hey, the show that you're about to talk about totally
love
sucks."
it.
I don't dislike Garfield. I'm just saying that I don't think a lot of people know about it, Heathcliff.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of bringing Heathcliff back, percolating him back up to the surface as
He
the
deserves
other.
a reboot so
Yeah,
that
totally.
this generation can enjoy him, because I feel like the 90s kids kind of missed out on that.
Word up.
Yeah.
Word up.
I do vaguely remember Heathcliff a little bit. I don't know if it was just I would catch the timing of the reruns and everything, but because he's got like he almost is more of like a tiger striped, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember the comic strips, and then I also remember seeing on screen on TV. It wasn't one that I think it was on like it was being shown on like PBS Kids or something like that. Like reruns.
Reruns and it's strange times too, right?
Yeah.
And I think even in its original run, it was kind of maybe the time was a little off. So
Mhm.
even in the 80s, not a lot of people, like a lot of kids knew about it. They were kind of like a subgroup of like cult, like a cult classic kind of thing, where it's like
Yeah.
a small group of people who really like it.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think definitely need to go back and rewatch that and get back into that storyline. And
Yeah. And and if you love Garfield, I'm not knocking you. So I'm totally diggity down with Garfield. I'm just saying, like, so Heathcliff is
He's
a little
just
bit
saying Heathcliff
saying
could
it.
kick Garfield's butt. Is what he's saying.
Probably
Yeah,
good.
just saying in like a
Yeah.
cage match.
Yeah.
He probably could.
he just needs to bring some lasagna and Garfield's down.
Yep,
Yep.
that's it.
Easy.
All right. So I'll go to my next one. So my next one is I doubt you guys had seen it, but My Little Pony.
She breaks out the My Little Pony.
I bring out the My Little Pony. That was one that I watched. It kind of, I guess, in a sense, was a little. I felt a little similar to Care Bears in this, like they all had like the powers or whatever. But I also love the toys for My Little Pony.
Yeah.
Because I never could have a horse because we lived more in the city. And so I would always, my brother had been the one that had watched My Little Pony, and he originally had the toys. And so I stole them from him because I wanted those little horse toys. But I don't know, it was just like I said, anything that has to do with animals, I was like all over eating that stuff up like cake. So
we did an episode on My Little Pony, and
Oh.
acknowledging our lack of knowledge on My Little Pony, we actually had my wife come on who had My Little Ponies when she was a kid and stuff, and she explained My Little Pony to us and stuff.
Aw.
Yeah, and in prep for it, I remember I watched an episode of the cartoon, and there was like some little pony, and all the other ponies kept picking on her, and I'm like, those ponies are bitches, man. Like, they're not very nice to each other. What kind of lessons is this teaching you?
yeah.
We,
Well, I
we
mean,
talked about the pony bros or
Oh, bronies.
Bronies.
Yeah, we
yeah.
talked about bronies. Yep.
There's a whole thing about bronies and stuff. It's fascinating, like how
Yeah.
My Little Pony has become a kind of this subculture of interestingness.
Huh.
Mhm.
Do you know about that, April? Do you know about it?
No, I
Have you-
didn't.
Go to a brony convention.
Yeah, there's brony. That's it. It's a thing.
Or actually, I guess if your brother introduced you to My Little Pony, he could go to the brony convention, and you could be like his plus one.
Huh.
We'll have to send you a link to that episode. You can learn all about kind of the underbelly of the world of My Little Pony. Or maybe you shouldn't listen to it because you have such nice, wholesome thoughts about it, and we're sending you a link that'll totally wreck that. So you might not want to listen.
I'm always intrigued by those, honestly. Like I love doing deep dives on things that I knew as a kid, and then finding out a lot of interesting shit's gone down on a lot of those. So
well, if you want to lose some of your wholesome thoughts, we'll send you this episode that we did, and it'll get a little uncensored for you. It's not too bad, but
no. And to be honest, it's a subgroup of people, but like it's about positive reinforcement to the guys that like are into that group and that kind of stuff. So it is actually, there is a positive aspect to it, although we make fun because that's kind of what we do. But the reality is the bronies are like a support group for each other, and like about like, coming out and being honest about like who you are and that kind of stuff, which is actually quite nice.
Yeah, definitely send that to us and everything, because I will definitely go down.
I'll definitely pretend like I'm going to listen to it.
Oh no! Listen, I actually, it's funny because originally for the longest time I wouldn't listen to podcasts, and then when we were talking about starting up one, I was in the middle of listening to like 5 or 6 going at the same time. Like I have my true crimes, I have my nostalgias, I have my rewatches, and I swapped my audiobooks and most of my like music in the car for podcasts. So I do go through and listen to a lot of them.
I'm the same way. I listen to a lot, and people will say that they're like, well, you should check out audiobooks, da 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 da. And it's like, I don't have time for audiobooks. I got podcasts to listen to.
Exactly.
I want a book, I'll read it like back in the
Right?
day.
I just
Absolutely.
watch Star Trek reruns. That's about it. I don't.
Do that too. Definitely do that too. All right, Milo, what's your next one?
Okay, this is I'm going to go another one that is awesome, and it's called ThunderCats.
Thunder, thunder, thunder,
Oh.
ThunderCats.
Yes.
ThunderCats, ho!
ThunderCats, ho!
So ThunderCats is kind of a weird show because basically it's a bunch of alien human cat hybrids that crash land onto a planet that turns out to be Earth in the very distant future. And then they decide they're going to take over this planet and kick the inhabitants off of the planet. And one of the inhabitants stands up to them, called Mumra. He's the villain, and I say that in quotes because really he's the good guy and the ThunderCats are the bad guys. And so they've got the cats, and they fight Mumra, and Mumra loses, and he goes back and he reforms and comes back and fights them again, continually trying to get these damn invading human hybrid cats off of his planet. And they're led by a boy cat who used to be a little kid, but then in the process of the transportation to the planet, he grew physically, but not mentally. And so they're basically being led by like a 10-year-old human cat hybrid with a sword and talking snarf thing, whatever the heck that is. And so it's kind of a weird show, but somehow it was super awesome and super popular back in the day. And all the kids wanted the toys and the sword.
I remember the sword used to go up when he did his ThunderCats thing, and it would kind of like go around his eyes with a little thing in it. He'd be like, "Oh, it's ThunderCats."
Mm-hmm. Did you watch ThunderCats?
No.
Did your
I've-
brother
I've
watch
got-
ThunderCats?
I gotta pull this up to remind myself
That
to
sounds
see
so
it.
foreign to me.
You
Yeah.
don't know what
Never heard
ThunderCats are.
Never heard of this.
You've never heard of
Ever heard about
ThunderCats?
ThunderCats? I can see you didn't watch it.
No.
You've never heard of it?
No.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
My
ThunderCats.
yes,
This sounds
my
like an
brothers
April show.
watched it.
Mhm.
Okay, so I don't think I actually watched it very much. I do remember my brothers watching it. Like looking at some of those pictures, those like screen grabs when doing Google image search. I definitely recognize the ThunderCats. That's for sure. But I could not tell you a name. I could not tell you a plot line. So it's probably one of those where when I saw my brothers watching it, I'd go back to my bedroom and play with Barbies or something.
That's understandable.
Because you didn't want to see the injustice that was happening to Mumra. You couldn't watch that. You were like, that's too much injustice for me. I feel you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor guys. I was getting beat up by ThunderCats.
So I do, with the fact that there's cats in the name, I am a little surprised I didn't actually
That's what I was
really
thinking.
sit down and watch it.
Well, I think the only real animal was that Snarf character and then Mumra's dog. So there are really only two animals.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mumra had a dog called Mum Mutt. Mum Mutt.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Hey. Yeah, I love it. Ashley, what's your next one on this list here?
Well, I already said Garfield.
Oh, so we're gonna go with your Garfield one?
Don't let
Don't
Garfield's
listen to
great.
Jamie.
Don't listen to me.
Yeah.
Defend Garfield. Yeah.
I love- yeah.
He's old and bitter.
I wouldn't say I love Garfield though. Like it's not a show that I was enjoying rewatching. It was, again, I feel like I'm the same way as April. I watched it because of my sister. Like it was on because she watched it. She was more fitting with Garfield's character. Like she enjoyed that, how he was. But I think I enjoyed Milo more. Like I feel like he was the reason I was watching the show more so than Garfield.
Didn't Milo not talk?
Mhm.
Are you guys talking about Odie?
You talking
Odie.
about me?
Oh,
What?
no.
I don't know where Milo
Odie.
came
I don't,
from.
re- I don't
was
remember
thinking of
being on
Oak.
that show.
Yeah, Milo, you were on that show, right?
Well,
I'm
where's my
thinking of
residuals? Somebody
Milo
owes
and
me some
Otis.
money.
Those 3 cents per stream or
Yeah.
something like that.
I need that.
Yeah, Odie was kind of the dim-witted, lovable dog. He didn't talk because he was a dog.
I see the
Dogs-
resemblance now. Yeah, now I get what you said, Milo.
Yeah, see, there you go.
Yeah, dimwit, lovable dog.
Well,
Gar-
that's the
so-
thing.
Garfield
didn't-
was huge though.
It was, but I didn't understand why Odie didn't get to talk. Garfield got to talk.
Yeah.
Because dogs don't talk in Garfield's world, right? Because
Yeah,
they're dumb.
Everybody
Cats
knows
are
dogs
smart.
don't talk. Jeez.
Cats are smart. Dogs are just kind of idiots. But Garfield was everywhere in the 80s. Everybody had this kind of Garfield suction cup thing on their car with the Garfield plush.
Oh, yeah.
My mom had a
Mhm.
Garfield phone. Like Garfield he was just around in the 80s. And not that it was bad. Garfield's great. I kind of like Garfield because he's kind of late. He's actually very smart, but he's lazy. So he's using his intelligence to figure out how he can be lazier. I get that. Like I do that. So I can relate to Garfield. And he's just a smart, lazy, fat cat, and people love him. He's awesome.
Jamie's more of a Garfield than a Heathcliff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, it's true. I do. I kind of sit around a lot and I nap and I like lasagna. I get Garfield.
It is interesting that Garfield blew up as much as it did. Like, I'm curious as if there wasn't the comics that were tied to it, would it be as popular? Was that a big part of its success? Because like I said, I was obsessed. That's the only reason why I grabbed the newspaper from my dad after he was done with it, is to read that comic specifically. So,
well, they made a conscious effort in the 80s. I think Garfield was around a bit before the 80s, but they made a conscious effort to merchandise him because it's the 80s. And they really had this kind of big marketing push that worked.
So, but why do you think that Garfield worked and Heathcliff didn't?
Because I don't think Heathcliff had the marketing backing behind him. Because if you had the same kind of marketing that Garfield had, he probably would have. But Garfield had better marketers, and back then
I think Garfield's cuter. If you put them side by side, like, you'd want to take a picture of Garfield versus Heathcliff. Heathcliff's kind of a scruffy looking.
Yeah, it's true. He looks better. He's cuter.
I don't know. To me, like Garfield looks more realistic, like an actual cat that you'd have, as opposed to Heathcliff was still very, very comic cartoony. I feel like they gave Garfield a little bit more of a actual cat look to him.
Yeah, that's true.
Makes sense. It's funny that you keep mentioning comic strips, though, because it is totally true. Like as a kid, your parents would read the newspaper and you just grab the comic section. The comic strips.
News?
That anymore.
Weather? Boring. Where's the comics?
Newspaper?
Where's the comics?
Comics and the movie times.
Oh yeah, the movie section.
Times.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't just look on the internet, man. You just
What's that?
Yeah, you had to look at the movie times in the newspaper.
Or call up on the house phone. Press 1 for this showtime, 2 for this showtime. Oh man, gotta love
the struggle was real.
Oh, definitely.
That's right, kids.
All right, I think I'm going now, right?
You're up next.
All right, I'm going with He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And that came out in 83, went to 85. Another one to sell toys, right? And I had all his toys. It's this barbarian dude with a sword who's with his friends, and he's fighting Skeletor, who's the master of Snake Mountain, and all of his like beast people. And they're trying to get Castle Grayskull from the sorceress so that Skeletor, he wants to get like the secrets of Grayskull. I think he's just probably trying to get his house back because it's a big skull castle and he's got a skull head. So I think he's got kind of a claim to that, right? Like maybe he even built that house and then they kicked him out and he's just trying to take it back, right? So Skeletor is actually kind of the victim in all this. But I always thought it's funny because it's got that Superman thing going on. So the land is called Eternia, and there's a king and a queen, and they have a prince, Prince Adam. And nobody knows that Prince Adam actually turns into He-Man with his sword when he needs to. They don't know they're this like the same person, even though Prince Adam looks exactly like He-Man. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't even wear glasses like Clark Kent. He doesn't. I mean, it doesn't change his hair, nothing. He just wears this kind of sissy Prince suit, and he maybe talks a little weird, but he looks just like He-Man. And when he changes, the only thing that happens is he doesn't wear his sissy Prince suit anymore. He just has this kind of barbarian loincloth thing going on. I never, even back then, I'm like, this kind of crap. But still, whatever. It's still cool because it's got all these different characters like Moss Man, who's this guy made out of moss. And you got Evil Lynn, who's like the haughty sorceress on the bad guy side. You got all these different Trap Jaw, and you got all these characters, and they translate into toys so well. And they have these cool vehicles, and it's rad. But then, as soon as it was so popular for like 2 years or so, and then suddenly it just kind of died. A lot of competition in the cartoon toy world in the 80s. But it's a bright shining star that lasted for a short time. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And if you want to check it out, but also watch the movie, they made a movie starring Dolph Lundgren. Watch it.
Classic.
Is it a animated or a live action?
No, it's live action starring Dolph Lundgren.
Ooh, okay.
And look, it's not good. But it's underrated. Okay. So go check it out. I think it's on like Tubi or something. You can stream it for free. Go watch it. And it's got Dolph Lundgren. He's like almost nude. So you'll dig that. And it's fun and it's actiony. And I just think it's underrated. I'm not going to say it's some kind of overlooked masterpiece, but I'm just going to say it's fun. So go check it out. Milo watched it recently. He's never seen it. He watched it. He approves. So that's
not as bad as you would expect it to be.
It's pretty good. It's not good, but it's not as bad as a lot of people say it is.
So He-Man was one that they played a lot in reruns. I think it had to have been like Saturday mornings. And it would be on before, oh gosh.
Before the current stuff.
Yeah, it was on before one of the ones that I liked watching. And so in order to make sure that I'd be able to watch my cartoon, I had to sit and claim the TV from my two older brothers and watch He-Man for different times and everything. Because I do remember seeing that. It was more like begrudgingly because I had to like stake my claim to the TV, get up early enough to stake it. But I did watch that. I did not know though about the live action with Dolph. I will definitely have to be watching that one because that.
Now you know what you're going to be doing this weekend. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Right on. You'll have to let us know what you think.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's for sure. So, all right, we're going to do this last round and then some honorable mentions. And so, I'll just go with this one. Inspector Gadget.
Oh yeah.
That, because I believe also like Disney, I think, had taken over. There was one of the TV stations that had like took over and was showing reruns and trying to reboot it. I think it was Disney right before they did the Matthew Broderick live action.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one that I was constantly watching. Can't ever get that theme song out of my head. Yes. But just silly, like it's not one that I can watch now. It definitely isn't. It does not hold up for me as an adult to be able to watch it. I think just a little too outrageous and childish, but it was definitely one that I thoroughly enjoyed.
I'm with you. I enjoyed it when I was a kid. because you're like, cool gadgets, da, da, da. But then as an adult, you're like, this guy's an idiot. Like,
Yes.
why?
How is this guy employed?
Oh, exactly.
There's no justice in the world.
It's
I'm working my ass off. I probably make like a fraction of what this guy makes.
yeah. So yeah, that's what kind of killed it for me as an adult.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I actually tried to not long ago rewatched a few, and I remember really liking it. And now it's like, and I think it's also how repetitive it is. Each episode is, oh, I'm the chief and I'm hiding, and here's your letter, and then it's gonna blow up, and guess what? You're gonna throw it at me, and I'm gonna blow up. I'll be like, oh, gadget. And then I'm going to go try to find Dr. Claw's plan, but really it's Penny and her dog with her computer book, and she's going to help me out the whole time, and I'm going to take credit for it. And then the next episode is exactly that same thing.
Yes.
And now as an adult, I kind of get ticked like, hey, maybe you should give a little bit of credit to Penny. She's smart. She's got this computer book. Her dog's always helping you out, but they never get any credit. And I feel like now that I'm a jaded, like middle-aged guy who's had a number of shitty office jobs, I'm like, man, I know how that feels. Like your crappy boss is trying to take credit for something that you found or something that you did. And that's exactly what's happening here. So go gadget, get out of here, bro. Done with you.
Amen.
I love
Thank
that.
you. Exactly. Mike,
Okay.
drop.
I get, yep. So you had to have seen this one. I know this one I'm going to name, and you're both going to have seen it. DuckTales. Right?
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
Okay. They did the first 4 seasons. They did 100 episodes of it. The boys, they go to live with Uncle Scrooge after Donald Duck drops them off to go join the Navy. They have the landlady and the other girl duck. I can't remember her name. Actually, I probably have it here in my notes, but and then Launchpad McQuack, and they all go on adventures, and they protect Uncle Scrooge vault from getting broken into, because everybody's like, I want a giant vault of gold coin, which seems like a safe place to keep it. And yeah, that's basically the episodes. But I recently watched the first few episodes, and the first few episodes are like a little mini movie. They connect, and so they actually have this storyline that kind of runs through, which is much cooler than a lot of cartoons from back in the day, where like you mentioned with Inspector Gadget, each one's kind of just the same thing over and over. So this was a lot of fun, and interestingly enough, it was actually a really expensive show when they started doing it. Disney spent a ton of money on this in comparison to what most cartoons were costing at the time to make. So, and it paid off. It's a great time.
Yeah, I remember April, we had talked about DuckTales and how it was one of our top 90s cartoons. Like, I mean, I know it started in the 80s, but as a 90s kid, that's one that we really held at the top of our list of top cartoons.
Mm-hmm. And it deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It does.
ING put it at the 18th best show on their top
wow.
100 best animated shows.
Wow. Definitely agree with that. And then just the theme song too. Like I know we haven't really touched on much of these, but the theme song for that one is just, you can't help but get up and move around
Tails.
with it.
Woo.
It's a legit single.
Right?
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I picked one that you guys liked and have seen.
All
Yeah.
right.
I feel like it's one of the main cartoons of, at least so far ones we've talked about, has a theme song that stands out the most, even more so than the show almost.
Yeah, it's living rent free in my head for all time, and I'm okay with it. You know, it's catchy. It's catchy AF.
Mhm. Yes, it
Definitely.
is.
All right,
So,
Ashley.
Another one of my shows that I really loved watching was Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Alvin.
I don't know why, because it is cringe to the max. Trying to rewatch it now as an adult, like it's just not bearable at all. But what's funny is that I think that what I remember most from like or about Alvin is the Christmas song that they sing, and that movie that they did with the girl chipmunks where they're like racing around the world, like that I remember more so than the cartoon. But I do really remember obviously Alvin and the cartoon characters, but my memories from it is more in that direction of like the Christmas song, being in like a 90s movie that I really loved growing up, which was Look Who's Talking Now. It was in that song. It was in that song was in that movie. So that's kind of where my connection with that show was.
I had that cassette tape, or I had a
Oh,
Christmas
really?
music cassette tape, and it had that song on there. Yeah, as a little kid. Christmas time is here.
It's really catchy though. I mean, they did covers of other people's songs and stuff, and they did it in that like these high chipmunk voices, but for some reason it worked because it's catchy,
Mhm.
super catchy. Like their stuff, like they came out with albums, like legit albums.
They did,
Yeah.
which is wild.
And all you had to do was just have some people and speed it up so it's high pitched and then slow it back down, but with the high pitch, and that's it. Brilliant.
Yeah, and they made millions, billions from it. I don't know.
Yeah. Live action movies, like they've done a ton.
Ooh, let's not talk about those.
Yeah, those about those.
Never seen them. I can honestly say never seen them.
You're not missing much on that.
Kinda had a feeling.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Don't ruin a good thing.
Don't
I
ruin
could-
the memories of the cartoon from when I was young.
Exactly.
So I'm going with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So you must know about Ninja Turtles, right? So they start
Clearly,
out.
I see that
Yeah.
response. Yeah.
Yeah, April's like, yeah, TMNT baby. I was huge into Ninja Turtles. I had all their toys. That's another theme song that was big, like kind of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right?
Oh yeah.
And I dug the turtles, and they were all like, they all had their own personalities. And they had April, who was kind of this haughty redhead helping them out. And then, you know, they were fighting some dude with like Shredder. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Your enemy is the Shredder. And he's got like, and all these other mutants. It's just New York's full of mutant animal people. It's crazy. And they're ninjas. Come on, man.
Isn't Uncle Shredder voiced by Uncle Shredder? There I go, mixing up the two. You already know what I'm gonna say, but
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying.
Uncle Phil from she's
Yeah.
talking about Uncle Phil from Fresh Prince.
Oh
voicing
yeah,
Shredder.
that's right.
Yes.
Uncle
Yeah.
Phil
Uncle
did the voice of
Shredder.
Shredder. Oh, I didn't know
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Yes.
Cool.
And now he's Uncle Shredder.
Yes,
Shredder.
now he's Uncle Shredder. So I'll just do a quick 2-second thing for you guys. That's actually how I got my name, is because my brothers were given the option between April and Stephanie. They watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and so they went with April.
Oh, rad.
I've
You're actually
gotten-
named after April from the cartoon?
They
Or
should have
because of
named
her?
you Shredder.
it's because of her, yes. And so there's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles always has a place in my heart for eternity on that. And I've gotten to meet some of the people that were a part of the live action. I actually got to meet Judith Hogue, who played April in the first live action movie. And I'm actually really, really excited. We've got a convention coming up in September where the voices of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1987 are going to be there, along with Kevin Eastman.
Wow.
And I already am set. Like I've already purchased my package to meet Kevin Eastman. And so Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, absolutely 100%. 100%.
Well, I'm glad I came out with that one.
Yeah.
Holy smokes,
Jamie?
that's rad. And you gonna go see like the voice actors and the actual guy who made the comic book?
Yes.
That's so cool. The comic book was interesting because it was actually, I had some of the comic, like original ones. I should have kept them, right? But it was like
Definitely.
black and white, and they were all they had the same mask on, and it was kind of violent. Like they were like drinking and chopping heads off and all that. They had to tone that down for the cartoon, obviously.
Mhm.
But when that movie came out, the 1990 movie, which I love, they actually inspired. It was more inspired by the comics.
Yes.
That's why it's even though parents are like, hey, it's a little kind of like not cartoony enough, and that's because it was good. It was actually a good movie. But that's so cool. You're gonna go to like, you'll have to send us like pictures or blog about it or something, because I'd be interested to see all these peeps you're talking about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just side note, the second movie was the number one movie in theaters on the day that I was born.
You're named
So-
April, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2 was number one on the day you were born.
Mhm.
And
I
so,
was-
do you have real Ninja Turtles in your house? Because
You
I'm
should.
starting to
Might as
suspect
well.
that now. Do you have ooze in your house? You're doing experiments. Like, I know. Come on, guys. I know this is gonna work.
Empty pizza boxes piled up everywhere.
Oh my god.
So April, like if you had one of the, by the way, we did an episode where we were matching up Ninja Turtles with the Golden Girls, like who would date who. So we'll send you that. I think you'd like that. But
That's hilarious.
which weapon would you use? Like which one would you use?
Oh gosh, I always like the nunchucks.
Yeah, nunchucks. Yeah,
So
because you can get all Bruce Lee. Like,
oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, because that was always my favorite. But my brothers, it was for a while. I would always get them like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff for Christmas. Back about like 7-10 years ago. Like Kohl's had just come out with like a really soft plush blanket, and I was working there. Somebody had returned one, and I'm like, I need another one. I'm taking this return. There's nothing wrong with it. And I'm like, I need another one because I want to give them both one and everything. So it's always,
why would you return it? What's the matter with you? I'll take that.
Exactly. I didn't even know we had that. And I saw that. I called up one of the people working in the kids section. I was like, I need you to find me another one of these immediately. I need to get this I have two brothers. I need to get them each one.
That's awesome.
Wow. So if I promise to send you our link of our discussion about which Ninja Turtle would date which Golden Girl, will you send us like updates on the convention thing? Is that a deal?
Absolutely.
All right, cool.
Absolutely. That's because they actually, so they've got the 4 that voiced the cartoons, and then they also have Robbie Rist, who voiced Michelangelo in the live actions, and Brian Tucci, who voiced Leonardo in the live actions.
Wow.
And I've met both of them before, both super, super nice. And yeah, so it's,
You need to get Corey Feldman there, and he
He's
can like
gonna be at one
start.
of them.
Is he?
He's gonna be at
he's
Tampa?
gonna be at Tampa
Yeah.
Comic-Con at the end of this month. And because of how many conventions we're doing in September and October, I had to say no to Tampa. But I did see Corey a couple years ago at a different convention. Didn't go and meet him just because it was a crazy year and his line was outrageous. But I was in line for somebody next to him, and so I did get to see him kind of from a short distance and everything. But
Rad.
yeah, so all right, anybody got any honorable mentions for any, or do we hit everybody's main ones?
The main ones.
Yeah.
I get an honorable mention of The Real Ghostbusters, which was a sequel to the movie, actually, with the guys from the Ghostbusters, which I think is worth checking out for people that are fans of the Ghostbusters.
The real Ghostbusters, not Ghostbusters.
Not the Ghostbusters. real Ghostbusters.
There's a whole story there. You can do a whole
Oh.
episode about that. My honorable mention is Transformers, because I mean they're robots that turn into like vehicles and have wars and stuff. Like that's awesome. How awesome!
Absolutely.
That's super awesome.
And then
Actually-
Michael Bay turned them into movies.
Yeah, Michael Bay
Yeah.
came and like wrecked my childhood with his baloney.
I was just about to ask, do you think the movies
I don't like
outdo the
Michael Bay. I
cartoons?
don't like it.
Okay.
And we're not going to talk about the Ninja Turtle movies because we're having a good time here. And we're not going to talk about how Michael Bay took the Ninja Turtles and completely wrecked them. So whatever.
Ooh.
No justice, because that guy has way too much money for what he does.
Oh.
That's all I got to say about that.
All right, my honorable mention is gonna have to be Berenstain Bears.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, Bernstein Bears.
that was mine.
I
Yep.
completely forgot about that one. Wow.
That one was because I loved reading the books too,
Oh yeah,
and
love the
so
books.
books and then the cartoon. But
It
they
was
just
a
do-
public TV thing, right? Public television. And it was very chill. Like it was
Yeah.
just a lot of like the
Yeah.
family talking, and it was very chill. A lot of
Yeah.
dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
But in a
Definitely.
good way, in a kind of it's a very calm show.
Yeah, I
cathartic.
love their treehouse. I love their
Yeah.
treehouse. That was I wanted one like that.
You wanted that? Yeah,
Hell
absolutely.
yeah,
wanted that.
right?
Absolutely.
Like you
No,
want a
if they
tree
just-
house, your parents go get you a tree house and it looks nothing like that, and you're like,
Yeah.
no, it's not gonna do.
Now, if they could just figure out how to freaking spell Berenstain Bears and keep it the same way for all eternity.
It's kind of surprising that that show hasn't had a reboot though, for as much hype as it always gets, that no one has redone it. It's really strange.
Give it time.
No,
Yeah.
I don't want to give
No.
it time. Like,
Like, don't want them to reboot it. Like it the way it is.
No, they'll probably just do some like rated R live action thing pretty
Oh, God.
soon.
I would
Bernstein
watch-
Bears Uncensored.
I would totally watch
Oh,
that. Actually,
I would too. Just
Cocaine
kinda
Bernstein
yeah.
Bears.
Yeah.
just like they did like with didn't they just do that with Pooh?
Yes.
Oh, did
yeah,
they? Yeah, I
they
heard
turned it into
something.
a horror film.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I've heard that was pretty good though, actually.
Well, from the like first
I
2
will
minutes
never
that I
know.
watched
I'm
of it, it
never
looked like
gonna-
trash. That's all I'm
Oh,
gonna say.
really?
I
Oh,
only
I haven't
watched
seen
2
it.
minutes and I'm like, this is
Yeah.
I'll never even consider it.
yeah,
Nope.
don't.
Oh.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I would say I'll watch it.
Yeah.
I haven't yet, but I will.
Do it for our sake and then let us
I
know
will.
if it gets
Yeah.
better after 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Man, that Winnie the Pooh kicks butt when he's evil.
All right. Well, Milo, Jamie, thank you guys so much for
This has
joining us.
been-
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Yes, it's been a
This-
lot of fun.
This has been. So we can find you guys wherever podcasts are. You guys have Instagram, you've got YouTube. Do you guys have any other social medias or anything?
We've got a website. That's our
Okay.
main thing. The 80s and 90s.com.
Perfect.
And then you
So-
can find everything we do there. Because we just
Awesome.
keep it
Everything
simple.
Okay. Simple's great. And I loved your mug that you have, Jamie.
Yeah, well, we just changed our
Dope.
logo. We neonified it. So this is vintage now. This is a collector's item
That's
now.
a, that's a collector's item that he has
Oh,
there. There's
yeah.
only like
Nice.
2 of these in the world, and Milo and I own them.
Nice.
I love it. I
I will
love
put
it.
this up on eBay, people. Start
Mhm.
debating it. 50 cents.
All right. Well, again, thank you both so much for taking time out of your days to join us. We really appreciate this. And yeah, thank you for joining us on 90s Noise.
Well, thanks for having us. This was fun. A lot of fun.
Peace out.